So I actually had a 34-minute video that I ended up deleting. It was all focused fetish on cops and murdering cops. Justification for not even justification. I don't justification explanation. Cited necessity. I don't know. The point is, there at some point. Okay, Americans. How did Americans discover that it was okay to kill Iraqis or the Vietnamese or the Spanish in 1900 or Panamanians in the 80s or Grenadians in the 80s? In each instance, or Black Panthers in the 70s. The explanation, the historical current justification, reasoning, was based on the fact that they had attacked first, and therefore that justified a greater measure of violence. Using that same rule of thumb, and I heard this crazy shit about the rule of thumb, is actually that the rule of thumb meant that you could only beat your wife with a stick that was as long as your elbow to your thumb. You couldn't do it. If you did it anything longer, it was illegal. That's good Christian values from a good Christian European society. Um, but I got rid of that one. The video. Let me see. Anyways. Oh, here. I got this right. I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I wanted to make a point that wasn't as necessary as I wanted to make. But, so in the process of making my own video, I grabbed my Bible because there's something that clicked in my head. I had to pull out my Bible, a good King James fascist Bible that was printed. The Hebrew original text is Masonic, period. The translated version in from King James, just go online and read the introduction to the King James Bible. Find the King James introduction to the King James Bible. You'll understand why Christians don't put it in their Bible anymore. Because it is his Bible. And that's what the fucking introduction says. So, but there's a part of, because all of these, the entire thing is Masonic, from beginning to end, from the Jewish part to the Christian part, even transcending over to the Islamic part. Maybe you cannot make the connection, or I cannot articulate it yet. It's Abraham. That's the gist. That's the simplest connection you need to know. Don't need to go any further. But, as it all is bullshit relating to fascism, and as Mussolini was so kind enough to educate the world, fascism is just a marriage of state and industry. Machiavelli did say in his Nicolai Machiavelli did state in his writing The Prince that the republic exists for one thing, and that is to create a military. It's important to note that when white Americans say, we're not even a democracy, we're actually a republic, most of them don't understand what's coming out of their mouth because they're parrots. They reiterate shit. Their brain is dead, their heart is dead, and there's no such thing as a soul in them. Is it because they're white? No, it's because their parents raised them the way they raised them. Under different conditions, they would be human. But boy, I get myself distracted big time. So the point is, I start decoding all of these fascist shit, like the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel is obviously a somewhat of a military manual on a genocide campaign, on how you need to effectively carry out a long-term genocide campaign. It might actually represent um, an initiating of something. But in the least part, it does basically emphatically state that if you want to destroy a people's identity, you have to fucking target their means to bond with each other. That is primarily communication. How do you sever human communication? You can't cut everybody's fucking tongue out. There's an art to that. It's it's in this book. The formula to how to dismantle the human species so as to turn them into murderous fucking pig fucking self-destructive suicidal fucking idiots is in here. This is the source code to fucking hell that I tried to save. So a couple things that I found, jumped into the Bible. Oh, I got a notion here that the story of St. John, chapter 11, Christ raises Lazarus from the dead. The way certain significance about the Bible is how many books, the breaking up of the Old and New Testament is a facade. Oh, on this note too, so Christians are like this. Oh, but you know, this book was written like 2,000 years ago, and everything's coming true. Israel's a nation, and Russia's the bear, because we call Russia the bear, so Russia must be the bear in the Bible. We call Russia the bear. So, in my interpretation that this is a fascist piece of shit goddamn manual, when this was written in phases, compiled, like my writings are compiled into a book, probably not as thick yet. Possibly though, come to think of it, I might have written this much. In now, in my theme, in their theme too. This is important. We're not different. We're saying the same shit. We're just giving a different association. Their theme is that the same source wrote the whole fucking book through various stages and elements and over a broad span of time. I say the same thing. It's just you think they make more sense because they say it's God, and I make less sense because I say it's a political entity that's hell bent on mass manipulation and militarization of the general human species so as to feel like they're contributing to order, control, and whatever else. But as such, they don't see it as the Old and the New Testament because only a fucking idiot thinks that there's an Old and a New Testament. It's a fucking book. So their reading of the books go in a whole because each book's number, just like the original Hebrew, just like English, even though we don't use it this way, that doesn't mean it doesn't have the potential to be used this way. The letters identify numbers. There's a relationship between them. So, like, this average stupid ass white or Western, not just white, don't get me wrong. Sorry, white people on that one. That was a mistake. The average Western influenced dipshit clone who thinks they're a human being what was I going to say? What do they believe? I forgot. But anyways, my point is this: if my deciphering skills are correct, then I am right now at John chapter 11. I'm find out what book it is later. I'm only doing this because I deleted my last video and I feel like I gotta put something, or I wanna put something. Not gotta, I wanna. Christ raises Lazarus. I have a feeling, based on the commentaries put in the last video, but that I deleted because I went too crazy, kind of like I'm doing right now. I'm tired, I think. Is that the Christ raises Lazarus is some kind of manual that has to do with developing corporations. Something along that lines, because Lazarus represents a person, and he's brought to life. This has to do, basically, Christ raises Lazarus is something that I'm trying to associate with the way the city of London operates, as well as the U.S. Supreme Court ruling not too long ago in what's called Citizen United, in which they declared that a corporation is a person with the same free speech rights. I like my favorite rebuttal to a corporation as a person is I'll believe a corporation is a person when Texas kills one, because they kill retarded people, women, innocent people, just to preserve the order of the law. So Christ raises Lazarus has something to do, because corporation is not a new idea, it's a Masonic idea. How it develops and portrays itself is just coupled with the accessories of the time. But in and of itself, a corporation is just a word to describe a group of people. A group of people has existed for a long time. Does it make any sense? Get the fucking So Christ raises Lazarus. I am not yet digging into, because I like to do this like this. I feel like this is macho. My ego. I got a beautiful male ego. It's a peacock like a motherfucker. I will get into this and decipher, but in the meantime, too, I found some tidbits. So my goal is going to be to make sense of how Christ raises Lazarus can be associated with the corporatization of this kind of shit like this, the corporate modern day concept of corporatism, which is a group of people. You can look at a corporation as a tribe. How about we just try to expand your brain a little bit? And something about this shit. So, I'll work on it. But in the meantime, while I was flipping through the Bible, I always find tidbits. I've never been able to not find tidbits. So let me save this page, because that's a really good one right there. And the other one's already bookmarked. So I was going through Psalms. I wasn't going through Psalms. I opened the book to Psalms because my nuclear fucking fascist fraud church that's built on the very ground that who's that motherfucker with the swastika on his fucking thing that killed those people? It's alleged. It's crazy. I can't even think of his fucking name. The white guy, Manson, Charles Manson, Manson. So Charles Manson, this church bought the ground on which his people did all their crazy shit and lived. This is a branch of the fucking nuclear fucking dynasty. Well, all Christians are fucking nuclear pieces of shit anyway, so I guess maybe they're not a fraud. I'm sorry, Rocky Peak, you're just like the rest of them. I take that back. So one thing, I have something underlined here, and it said it was in Psalms 22, verse 20. It was the second half. These are split in two, kind of like verse, poetic sort of, obviously, or not obviously, but if you didn't know, the majority of Psalms are poems and songs and whatnot. Deliver my soul. Oh no, sorry. Second half first. Oh, okay. It's a semicolon. So it's deliver, essentially saying deliver, sort of. That's the first sentence. Then semicolon. Semicolon. My darling from the power of the dog. Deliver my darling from the power of the dog. The whole verse reads, deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. I had a word written, underlined with that second part. Actually, I could just show you. So I found the word bitch written with 2 question marks because of the word dog. But as I was getting ready to flip away, I saw another thing about the King of Glory and the other Psalms. Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, the King of Glory, and Psalms 25, lead me in truth. And then when I started reading it, these are some really psychopathic, fucking crazy. You think I'm narcissistic, and I'm fucking crazy, and I think the world is against me. This fucking shit is insane. Lord, lead me. Think about the Lord is my shepherd prayer. You know what kind of a tweaker God is? If this is from a God, that motherfucker's a tweaker. Everybody's after this motherfucker. Everybody wants. Everybody. Oh my gosh, that's some fucked up shit. No wonder fucking. Oh, I ain't gonna get into that. Ugh. So, anyways, it's all fucking psychopathic. Oh, unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Lead me in truth. This is called lead me in truth. Psalm of David, 25. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. O my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. Let not mine enemies triumph over me. Yet let none that wait on thee be ashamed. Let them be ashamed which transgress. Let them be ashamed which transgress without cause. Without cause. Let them be ashamed who transgress without cause. So if you have a cause, the Bible says make sure you can transgress. That's very interesting because I didn't see that the first time, but that makes me think of the book earlier in where the Bible says, if you go to the land of the Pharaoh, don't follow the rules. If you go to any other land that's not my land that I've given to you, do not follow their national laws. Break them, or I will disown you. And then it goes on to say, and don't expose the nakedness of your father. Don't expose the nakedness of your father's wife. Don't expose the nakedness of your father's son. Don't expose the nakedness of your father's daughter. All this nakedness. Ham exposed the nakedness of Noah. I say that is a way of interpreting Noah raped fucking Ham. He went and told his brothers who were raped by his fucking father too. They turned their head backwards. That's what the Bible says. And they covered his shame with a cloak that was over their shoulders so they did not see their father's nakedness. They didn't snitch, bitch. Let them be ashamed which transgress without cause. Here's another reiteration of the Bible saying, create crime, not righteousness. Lie, steal, rob, kill, rape, and murder with a cause. God is the cause. That's what God stands for. A cause. That's it. It's a justification for all fucking things. If there was not the God element, then you'd have an identity. And if you had an identity, then the very same force in which it is justified, same goes thing with me. It goes to show you how rat think of a coward I am and broken. The people that fight for God, in one sense, are more human than me. Because what they're substituting God for, at least still affects them. And they can kill other people without any fucking problem. Maybe a couple nightmares or something like that. But for the most part, then they start to like it and they become a cop or join the military and rape each other. Um, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into that. That's not my main point. Back to the fucking my darling, the power of the dog. So deliver my soul from the sword and my darling from the power of the dog. That's an interesting thing. That's saying that it's like about death. But the dog stood out to me, and for some reason I do have bitch right there. But then I know that the priest is called a collar, and so they're basically a dog collar. So I got a feeling that this might have, again, Masons wrote this fucking book. Masons designed. I don't give a fuck what Catholics say or what they say. Oh, and the cat. How many police? How? Rephrase that. You get these news events in American idiom. So you have going all the way back to Obama gets into office. Obama's a Freemason. He's a Boule Society. Um, Henry Louis Gates, which is a professor at Harvard and in charge of all the genetic studies and shit like that, who rather, as a black man, rather than finding out the genetic traces of all who's the descendants of rapes and what black people have the legacy rights to fortunes like the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and shit like that based on genetics, the same fucking principles that the white pieces of shit use in order to say that they own it. It's just DNA. That's all it is. They say, oh, well, no, I've been here longer. I've taken care of it. Shut the fuck up, bitch. So he doesn't do that. All he does is some nice other thing that has nothing to do with that. Because it doesn't matter. He's not here to help black people find an identity. In that context. That's some real shit. So, but he's a Mason. Obama's a Mason. The cop that came to the beer summit was a Mason. In the Trayvon Martin shooting, Trayvon Martin's dad is a Mason. Obama's a Mason again. The police that showed up at the motherfucking scene of the goddamn crime that let George Zimmerman go are Masons. George Zimmerman's uncle, who's a fucking federal judge in Florida, is a goddamn Mason. His father was a motherfucking Mason. He's not a Mason. That is not a true perspective. There are not that many fucking Masons on the goddamn planet. That is another subtle way of portraying the world in a way that is not correct. It's a lie. Do you know they're Masons? Art is a powerful force. It can be used for good or bad. So, Masons portray them, this is how they gain their strength. They portray themselves to be in conflict. That way they appear weak and vulnerable and less of a threat. When you cannot identify Masons, Catholicism, and the royal family as one entity, and Switzerland, when you see them as, why do you think Swiss protect the Vatican? No. The banking epicenter of the world protects the religious fucking mega fucking thing. The militaryless banking country in the world protects the religious organization the same way the illegal nuclear weapons protect Israel. God's chosen land. Well, God sure does love fucking guns and bombs and violence and murdering and spying and politics. Why didn't he just fucking... Why didn't he like the devil? The devil likes all that shit. So this thing right here, deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. I just got a hunch that it has something to do with a priest, a Catholic priest. I'm not sure yet, but I'll have fun finding out. So back in John, I found this one is really nice, and I'm gonna end with this. John chapter 10, verse 21. Two-part verse, and I'm only gonna read the whole verse. Others said, these are not the word of him that hath the devil. I guess they're accusing Jesus of being a devil because whatever, he's doing good. He's trying to do good, so they're saying he's got to be a devil. You know how that goes. Like white people coming to America, they're just trying to do good. They were just trying to help the Indians understand Jesus and civilization. It's not like they had devils in their heart. They had Jesus in their heart. They were good, God-fearing men. But the next verse is I love it. Others said, these are not the words of him that hath the devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind? Can a devil open the eyes of a blind? Well, they say when you study the Bible, it's important that you don't stray too far from it, because it's written so fantastically by God that if you read one part and you go to another part, a lot of times they have the same thing, and they have something in common. And that goes to show, because of the time that it was written over, that it's a single entity writing it, a single cause. Again, we're on the same page. So a devil never opened the eyes of the blind. The devil never opened the eyes of the blind. A devil never opened the eyes of a blind. And the eyes of both them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. Sounds like what white people did to Indians. I'm sorry, Christians. Christians did to Indians. Sounds like what, I guess they didn't have to do that. Muslims didn't have to do that to Hindus and Buddhists in India because their civilization was like 7, 15, 20, 30, 80,000 years way older than the bullshit that they were coming at. Islam is a fucking joke as much as Christianity. So, a devil has never opened the eyes of the blind in John chapter 10. And then the devil opens the eyes of the very first two people. Call me crazy. Well, but you can't overdo it when you study the Bible. That's why you need a preacher or a pastor, because you need somebody that's been told how to read it from another person, so that they can tell you that God told them how to read it through the people that they told them to. Because if no one tells you exactly, how are you going to know that it makes sense? Because God only teaches you what He wants you to know, and I don't understand it. So my reading comprehension is at 9th grade levels. I don't know what's going on, and my math comprehension is really low. And that's the way that you live. A devil has never opened the eyes of a blind. Chew on that. I am the devil. Oh, I just want to say, the Tower of Babel, I'll give you a real life example. Indian boarding schools. There, done.